It's actually kind of wild how often Daryl Dixon ends up being right in The Walking Dead. But the crazy part is, when he is right, things don't magically get better. A lot of the time, it makes everything worse in a different way. Like early on, Daryl's instincts are always screaming, "Don't trust people." And honestly, looking back at stuff like the governor situation, he wasn't wrong. The governor literally pulled up pretending to be reasonable, then turned around and wiped out entire groups. Daryl's whole vibe was basically survival first, trust later. And that mindset would have saved them a lot of pain. Take Rick Grimes trying to play nice at the prison, and later with Woodbury. Rick was still holding on to that old world mindset, trying to negotiate and build something stable, while Daryl was way more cautious. And yeah, Rick's way felt right morally, but it kept putting them in danger. When the governor attacked the prison, it basically proved Daryl's whole point. Trusting the wrong people didn't just backfire. It destroyed the home they spent so long building. Then you get to Terminus, and this is where Daryl being right hits even harder. The signs were off from the jump. Too perfect, too clean, too welcoming. Daryl never fully bought into it, but by the time the group realized what was going on, they were literally about to be slaughtered. That whole cannibal situation. That's exactly the kind of thing Daryl's instincts were trying to avoid. But again, even though he was right to be cautious, they still walked straight into it, and surviving it changed the group permanently. After that, they weren't the same people anymore, and honestly, the biggest example has to be Negan. Daryl never trusted the Saviors, not even a little bit. The moment they started encountering outposts and hearing whispers about Negan, Daryl's mindset was already, "This is bad and it's going to get worse." And he was 100% right. But the way everything played out, that's where it gets messy. Because even though Daryl's instincts were on point, the group still went all in on attacking the outpost, which triggered Negan's full retaliation. And then comes that brutal lineup scene. Daryl's reaction there, punching Negan after everything went down, was pure Daryl. Emotional, loyal, not thinking about consequences in that exact second. But that moment directly leads to Glenn Rhee getting killed. And that's where the whole idea hits hardest. Daryl being right about Negan didn't save anyone. If anything, the situation spiraled even worse because of how everything unfolded. He saw the danger, but stopping it, that was a whole different story. After that, you can see Daryl kind of shift. He becomes even more closed off, more hardened, especially during the Savior War. He pushes for more aggressive action, less hesitation, and again, he's not wrong. The Saviors are a threat that needs to be handled. But that constant push toward violence and survival first thinking keeps dragging the group deeper into that cycle. Even when they win, it doesn't feel like a real victory. It just feels like survival with more scars. So yeah, Daryl being right is almost like a curse in the show. His instincts are sharp, his judgment is usually on point. But the world they're in is so broken that being right doesn't lead to good outcomes. It just means you see the disaster coming before everyone else does. And sometimes, even when you see it coming, there's nothing you can do to stop it. And that's exactly what ends up destroying everything. What really makes it hit harder is how often Daryl Dixon is operating off pure instinct, not some big speech or plan. He's not sitting there trying to convince people with long explanations like Rick Grimes usually does. Daryl just feels when something is off. And the crazy part is, that gut feeling is almost always right. But nobody fully listens until it's too late. That gap between what Daryl senses and what the group actually does. That's where things start falling apart. You can even see it back when they first get to Alexandria. Everyone's acting like they finally made it. Clean houses, running water, actual walls. But Daryl never fully buys into it. He's still out there hunting, still staying on the edge of things, still acting like danger is right around the corner. And yeah, at first it makes him look like he just can't adjust. But then the wolves show up, and suddenly that paranoia doesn't look so crazy anymore. The wolves' attack is one of those moments where Daryl's mindset gets proven again. The idea that you can't just sit behind walls and pretend the world is normal again. That's exactly what Alexandria was doing. They were soft. Daryl saw that instantly. And when the wolves came in and started slaughtering people, it exposed how unprepared they really were. So again, Daryl was right. But being right didn't prevent anything. It just meant he saw it coming. Then there's the whole Dwight situation, and this one is messy. Daryl shows mercy at one point. He lets Dwight and Sherry go when they're in the woods. And what happens? Dwight ends up betraying him later, captures him, and hands him over to the Saviors. That moment right there flips everything. It's like the one time Daryl doesn't fully follow his don't trust anyone instinct. It comes back and wrecks him. So now he's stuck in this cycle where trusting people is dangerous, but not trusting people also has consequences. When Daryl is imprisoned by Negan, you really see how his mindset evolves. He refuses to break, refuses to submit, even while being tortured. And in a way, he's right again. Giving in would mean losing himself completely. But his resistance also makes him a bigger target. It pushes Negan to make an example out of him. So again, doing the right thing doesn't lead to safety. It just leads to more suffering. After he escapes, there's this shift where Daryl is basically done with any kind of halfway solutions. He's not trying to negotiate, not trying to understand the enemy. He just wants it over with. You can see this especially during the war, when he pushes for more direct attacks instead of waiting or planning. And yeah, he's not wrong that the Saviors need to be taken down. But that constant push for action speeds everything up, makes everything more chaotic, and leads to more losses along the way. Even when the group wins against the Saviors, Daryl's perspective doesn't suddenly change. He's still carrying everything. Glenn's death, the prison, Terminus, all of it. And that's the thing. Being right over and over doesn't bring peace. It just piles on more proof that the world is broken. While other characters try to rebuild or find hope, Daryl is stuck in that survival mindset because, from his point of view, that's the only thing that's ever kept him alive. You see it again during the time jump, when communities are trying to connect and build something bigger. There's trade, cooperation, even some level of peace. But Daryl stays out on the edge again, literally isolating himself for a while. It's like he doesn't trust the idea of stability at all anymore. And honestly, after everything he's seen, you can't even blame him. Every time things look stable, something comes in and tears it apart. Then the Whisperers show up, and it's basically Daryl's entire worldview getting confirmed again. These aren't people trying to rebuild. They fully embrace the apocalypse, living among walkers, wearing their skin, abandoning civilization completely. It's the exact kind of threat Daryl has always been preparing for. And once again, the rest of the communities have to catch up to that reality after it's already too late. The fair scene, with the heads on the pikes, is probably one of the darkest confirmations of that. The communities were trying to celebrate, trying to come together, trying to move forward, and then Alpha just shatters all of it in one move. It's brutal, and it completely resets everything back to fear and survival. Daryl didn't create that situation, but his constant warning that things aren't safe, that ends up being completely justified. And what's wild is that Daryl never really gets a moment where being right feels like a win. There's no "I told you so" moment where things turn out okay because he was cautious. It's always the opposite. He's right, and things still collapse. He's right, and people still die. So over time, that just builds this weight on him where being right doesn't even matter anymore. By the later parts of The Walking Dead, Daryl isn't trying to convince anyone of anything. He just acts. He protects the people he cares about. He handles threats as they come, and he keeps moving. That's it. All the bigger ideas about rebuilding the world or creating a future, those feel distant to him because every time someone tries, something destroys it. So when you really look at it, Daryl being right is almost the most tragic thing about his character. He sees the truth of the world way earlier than everyone else. But that truth is ugly, and it doesn't lead to better outcomes. It just means he's always carrying the reality of what's coming next, while everyone else is still hoping things might turn out okay. And in that kind of world, being right doesn't save anything. It just means you're the first one to realize everything's about to fall apart.